All right, what's going on, everyone? We have the 9070 XT again, and this is the latest update. We checked it out on FSR4 right when it came out, and it had a little bit of issue with some path tracing, but now that the driver has been updated through the AMD app recently, I wanted to give it another shot. I've also included performance logs over there. Your 1% lows are in this video now, so that is a nice update. And then I've got the overlay working to show actual the different frame time graphs and stuff like that via the AMD overlay in the top. So you'll be able to check that out as well. So let's just get into it. This is, of course, low at 4K. So everything is running just fine here. We're on native anti-aliasing, so nothing at all is terribly hard to run at this moment. So right here are our settings. So as you can see here, everything down here is pretty much bottomed out to that low setting. I'm going to turn it up to medium here. So let me jump over here, go to medium, make sure we're on FSR4. So that is important to be able to do that. Native anti-aliasing, we're going to leave that. So come down here, all this stuff, we're going to turn off all this motion blur stuff that looks pretty bad. So yeah, just medium, no big deal. I just like to run through kind of what I'm working with instead of just like flying through it. I want you to be able to see exactly what kind of settings I'm running here. So right here at 70 still looks pretty good, running just fine. Of course, these settings aren't too terribly hard to run. No ray tracing yet, and we're on native anti-aliasing, so not doing any upscaling at all at the moment. Let's come over here and just see what all we can expect. Wanted to double check something for us real quick. Go to video. Okay, we're definitely on 4K. Just want to make sure. But yeah, we're good to go here. Let's just run up to high. Of course, kick it back over. This game loves to jump around, so I'd like to be really careful here and make sure that I'm not missing anything. So all this down here is good to go. All right, so we just have the high setting, still native anti-aliasing. And right here we are at just below 60. So still looking really good though. Frame times at 17 milliseconds there, so that's pretty good as well. Yeah, looking really nice. So we are at about 61 FPS. Let's let our 1% lows catch up here. Once you exit the menu, it takes it just a little bit to become accurate. So 51 FPS on our 1% lows with 44 FPS on our 0.1% lows. All right, so we're looking okay there. Let's just keep on rolling through it. If you notice any frame tearing, it's simply because YouTube is locked at 60. And obviously we don't want to lock this at 60 since it is a performance test. So if you see that, just kindly ignore it. That's just YouTube. All right, so let's jump over and see what we can do on the basically kind of all the way up to Ultra without any upscaling. Let's go over to FSR4. So we're still on Ultra. It always switches to custom, but we are still on the Ultra setting with no ray tracing, no path tracing, no upscaling. So this is just going to be a good look at it to kind of get a baseline. We'll probably need to upscale at this level, but we'll see how it goes. All right, so that gives us, yeah, 35 FPS. So this is definitely where you want to entertain some upscaling. So right here we are just going to do a quick little lap, get over here. It tends to run a little bit worse around this roundabout and a lot better on that back stretch. This is kind of why I jump into Dogtown so much, is simply because you get a lot of variance on this area here, and then of course whenever you leave this area it will pick back up on this back stretch. And two, if it runs well in Dogtown, it will run pretty much well everywhere else. This is the most intensive part of the game, but it's not broken. It runs really good. It's just got a lot going on. So our frame time graph is really nice. So jumping up into close to 40 at times. Oh my god, I have to wreck at least once. Let's see what we can do here. That was fun. All right. Yeah, I can't believe I didn't run somebody over. All right, so yeah, we're just going to jump through here. Hopefully not kill anyone. Let's not do that. I don't want to be distracted by cops here. All right, so yeah, not the best driver apparently. So let's see, right here at 34 FPS, let's go ahead and jump up on our upscaling just to see what kind of uptick that gives us. So we've left everything else completely alone, and that gives us a plus 60 experience. Nice and smooth again, so that looks really good. 65 FPS. And our 1% lows, they're not 8 FPS. Let's give it a second to collect some frames. All right, it picked back up. So right there at 27, 53, that's more like it. All right, so 53, 1% lows. That's pretty good. Right here, this is an ultra setting with no ray tracing, path tracing, anything like that. So since we're over 60 at the moment, but not by much, I wanted to jump over and just click over to a balanced upscale and see what it kind of gives us on the ultra setting without any sort of path tracing or ray tracing right now. Just using upscaling on ultra, not turning on any of the visual, harder to run stuff like ray tracing. That'll definitely tank it a little bit. And I'm hopeful that this new update through the the AMD driver. I've been testing NVIDIA cards for a while. The AMD Adrenaline software, I'm hoping that it gives us a little bit more stability when it comes to path tracing, because that was an issue the last time we ran through the same exact test, maybe a month ago or so. But yeah, we're at 81 FPS here. All right, so let's go ahead and see what we can expect if we go up to a performance setting here. So let's go to performance again. Performance at 4K still looks pretty good on FSR 4. We don't have any sort of really bad looking anomalies or flickering or anything like that. Things tend to be pretty sharp still at 4K because you are upscaling from 1080p. So we're still looking really good here. So we are at about 90 FPS with a 70 FPS 1% low before we do any ray tracing. All right, so let's jump over and do some ray tracing. I'm going to kick it back over to quality because that's what we were on. All right, yep, let's go ahead and click through all these different dialog boxes. Ultra, we're going to skip Steam Deck, go to low. All right, so low ray tracing, quality FSR 4, sharpness, leave it on 4, that's fine. What this does is brings in local shadows, and that's it. All right, so everything is, as you see here, I'm going to turn off all of this crazy stuff. Just makes the image look cleaner. All right, so let's jump into it. So this is a little bit of path tracing, or not path tracing, a little bit of ray tracing. And we are right at 60 FPS. Now, the first level of ray tracing in this title, it's not that intensive. It's just local shadows. It's nothing too bad at all. As you can see, we're up in the upper 60s, same as we were with it off. So there's not a huge performance impact if you go to that local shadows, which is basically RT low, I believe is what they call it. So right here at quality, we're still pulling in some decent frames here. 60 FPS on this title is, generally fine. It feels pretty good. It's a single player title, so not competitive. 60 is generally fine. All right, so let's jump over here and just kick on a little bit more of that, ray tracing. So let's come into here. Let's go up to that very next level. All right, so that was ray tracing low. Let's go to medium. Let's kick over to 4, leave it on quality. All right, so come down here. This just kicks on your sun shadows. So local shadows stays on, sun shadows comes up 1 peg. And then we got ray trace lighting set to medium. So we're getting a little bit of ray trace lighting there. So let's come into here. And I test a lot of settings in these reviews. So we're just gonna see how all of it kind of operates here. So that gave us a significant hit, cost us about 20 FPS there. We're at 44 frames per second, but oh man, the visual quality is just really nice. So let's give it some time to collect some frames, get an accurate 1% low here before we move on. All right, jumped up to about 36 there, so 41 and 36, that ain't bad. That tells me that's pretty smooth, not getting many, really any hangs or hitches or anything like that, which is a little bit better, I believe, than what it did last time. So we may have gotten a little bit of improvement with that new driver, which is my hope for this card for sure, because I would love to be able to crank up some path tracing on this title with a 9070 XT. So let's jump over into it here. 42, yep, looks really good. So let's jump over one more on our upscaling just to kind of help it out since we're in the 40s here. All right, so that gives us a little bit more frames on this back stretch. It's gonna run a little bit better, so I don't want to get too excited here. 53 ain't bad. All right, so 18. Let's see, average frame time is about 20. So that's not bad at all. Yeah, let's keep going. So we are at about 50. FPS is what I'm going to say, with about 1% low. All right. So we're going to have to go to performance at this stage to get the frames up over 60, which is not a surprise. Still looks pretty good. So let's jump into it here. All right. So right here, basically medium RT with performance, we are right at 64. Now it's going to run a little bit worse around this monument here. Dropped down into the upper 50s there. But you know, like I said, if it runs well here, it's going to run pretty well everywhere else in the game. So that's why I chose this area. It's just kind of like a good baseline to give you the confidence to set it and forget it and play the game. Last thing I want is to break immersion by fiddling with settings all the time. But yeah, we're at 62, 63, 54, 53 on our 1% low. So we got 53 and 60, 62. That ain't bad. All right, so let's jump down and see what we need to do. Hit the mic, sorry about that. Let's jump in to see what we need to do here, and let's just crank out the ray tracing. So no path tracing yet. Let's just jump over here and see what we need to do. So there's Ultra, jump over to FSR4, leave it on performance. We needed that earlier. So this is going to bring everything out as far as ray trace reflections, and then in addition to what we had before. Ray trace lighting goes up to Ultra. I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to Psycho just because I've tested this quite a bit and there's not a lot of difference in demand. I mean, it's very, very negligible. So if you're going to go Ultra path trace or Ultra ray tracing, just go ahead and kick it up to Psycho. Let's turn all this off here. All right, so let's go and apply that. So as you can see, everything's been basically maxed out. We're on the highest level of ray tracing without going to path tracing, and that gives us just shy of 60 FPS. All right, so right here we're at 50, 46. So right around this monument, it does drop down a little bit. Let's give it some time, figure out what our 1% lows are. All right, so I was really hoping for over 60, but some frame gen could potentially get us over that hump without adding much latency. I'm hoping that my frame gen lag will kick in once I turn on frame generation, because on the NVIDIA side, you can measure PCL pretty well through the NVIDIA app, and I'm hoping that I can measure the frame gen lag and kind of give you guys an idea of what kind of latency it will add. All right, jump over here, see 55. So 45 and 55, I like to give it a way to, a little bit of time so I can figure out how to, get itself sorted out. Because it's calculating frames and then running, these averages. So I like to give it some time to make sure I'm not jumping ahead too fast. All right, so 43 and 55 here. So let's jump over to the very next level of path tracing. Let's go all the way up to path tracing, which is Overdrive. I went one too far. So let's go and just see how bad this is on performance, just to get a baseline, and then I'm going to come back and start working with some frame generation just to kind of see what it would take to get this to be a nice playable experience with some path tracing and ray tracing turned on. So it's going to be a little bit longer test, so just be sure to stay to the end. You'll be able to get a pretty comprehensive idea of what it will take. So I'm going to leave it on performance. Now this is Overdrive. This is where it crashed last time, so this will really tell me if it has more stability, and it seems to have some more stability, which is a really good thing to see. So we're at 33 FPS though, so it's really, it's struggling a little bit on performance, but path tracing is definitely difficult. Man, these brakes are really terrible. It's definitely difficult for most cards to run path tracing in this title. Typically the 80 series and 90 series are what you want to go for with that, and hopefully we'll get an 80 series out of AMD. That would be really, really nice. If that happens, that would be great. But yeah, until then, we got the 70 XT. But yeah, we are at 27, 26, 28, so 1% lows, 24. So we're definitely going to have to jump up to ultra performance at this level. Now, ultra performance does not look wonderful. I tend to want to give it a little bit more sharpening. I'm going to go up to 0.5. Let's see what we can do on ultra performance. It is a bit softer, but it's not terrible. It's not DLSS 4.5 on the L model, but it is better than it's been in a very long time. a little bit, things start to look a little bit like too smoothed out. It's almost like things begin to look like they have like a clay texture to them on ultra performance. That's just what I've been able to observe. But again, it does give you some decent frames. You're back up into 49, 50, 50 FPS here, which is, it's in the realm where you can start to do some frame generation. Not like a lot, but you know, it's not ideal is what I kind of mean, but it's there. You can definitely do it. So what I'm going to do now is jump over and turn on some frame gen, do a restart. On a restart, everything's feeling a little bit better. So we're on path tracing. Let me jump in my settings so I can show everyone. No, not that button. Go up, go to settings. There we go. All right, yeah, so we are on full path tracing indicated right here. We have full path tracing. Frame generation is on. We are on performance. And that, of course, all this stuff is turned off. All this stuff is just how it is set up from the main setting at the top there. And everything looks like this. So with performance, path tracing, with frame generation, you are right at 56 FPS. So is it worth it? Maybe. I mean, again, this is like the hardest area to run. So outside of Dogtown, you would probably be okay. You would probably ride at 60. If you're on a controller, it feels good enough to, you know, of course, get used to it. But, you know, that frame generation is picking you up from, you know, what was it, around like mid-20s, high 20s? I can't remember. I have the memory of a gnat, but yeah, right around there is kind of where we were. And as you can see here, we're right at 60 in this area. So let's jump over and potentially look at how to get this to be a little bit more playable here. So if we come down here, let's see where we're at. So if you drop down some of these things, let's just see what we can do. All right, so screen space really doesn't matter. We have path tracing on. Ambient occlusion, we could probably bring that down to potentially low. Level of detail, let's go medium there. All right, so let's just kind of look at it here and just see what we can do as far as like some custom stuff goes. Shadow quality, mainly the volumetric fog, that's usually a heavy hitter. Cloud quality, that's usually a heavy hitter. And let's just see what we got here. All right, so let's see what we can do with these settings here. See if that picks us back up. All right, so let's see, we're still in the 50s. Is our 1% lows any better? That's the main question. All right, so right here at 49, that did not seem to really move the needle much at all. So seems like this is kind of just path tracing, just absorbing every bit of resources that this card has. We are allocating basically all of our VRAM. We're down in the high 40s here. So potentially on this title, maybe path tracing is not where I would go with it. I would probably go with a ray tracing with some, you know, with some different settings enabled that would give it a little bit more smoother experience. So I would just probably go ray tracing ultra, of course, use FSR4. Performance looks fine. Let's go with the frame generation. Let's keep all this on, go up to that psycho, that's fine. So this gives you a really, really good experience, very, very high detailed lighting. Turn all this stuff off, and this is probably exactly how I would play it. Again, just leave that path tracing off, and you're gonna get a significantly better experience. You're at 97, 103 FPS here. So this tells me that we're pulling right around 60 as a base frame rate. And, you know, 1% lows are looking good. I will say that this update, since the last time I tested this card on this title, seems to have made a significant improvement on stability. I have not had a single crash, whereas the last time when FSR4 first came out and I tested this title, it was crashing quite a bit with any sort of ray tracing and especially path tracing turned on. It was really unstable. So it seems like they've done some work on that driver, and yeah, this has been a pretty decent look, I think, as far as like a clean update from that previous video. So if you like this kind of stuff, of course, jump down there in the comments and let me know. Give me a like if you liked it. and ask any questions. I'm pretty down in the comments, so if you ask questions, I'll try to get back to you. If you got any problems, we'll try to figure it out. But yeah, this has been Cyberpunk 2077 on the latest AMD driver on the 9070 XT. Hope everyone has a great day. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.